Peugeot is a brand that builds quite good looking cars these days, and behind me is certainly an example of that. My name is Peter, and in this video we're having a look at the Peugeot 408. We're going to start with the question, what is this shape? It's clearly not a station wagon, it's not a coupe, although it has a coupe shape. It's not a normal sedan either, and it's certainly not a hatchback. What is this? Like some kind of fastback shape or elongated coupe like the BMW 6 Series maybe? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. How would you name this kind of form factor? It's kind of cool. It's a nice looking car. Starting here on the front, this is the GT line, so that is the trim level. And we get a grille in the color of the car. So if you get a different color, then this black will be the body color that you pick. If you go for the lower trim level, you get a different kind of grille altogether. Here on the front also the matrix LED lights that you get with this GT line, and of course the signature sort of fang on the side for the daytime running light. Good looking car on the front as well, and in case you forget what your brand and your type numbers are, then they are here on the front. With this GT line you also get 19-inch wheels, and I think in this black with black and extra black it is quite a sort of gangster spec. I quite like this. This is a type that I would probably pick in this configuration if I had to pick a Peugeot 408. It's quite nice, this whole sort of gangster spec. I think it looks rather cool, and I think it suits this car really well. With well over 4.80 meters, it's certainly not a small car. There is a lot of space on the inside, as we'll see, but this form factor also offers some space in the boot. Before we open the boot, by the way, here is the 3D tail lights. Very interesting, very designy as well, but it looks pretty good. If you follow this car at night, it is actually quite nice. And if we open up the boot, you can see that there is also quite a lot of space in here, and a surprisingly good amount of height up there as well. So this is certainly big enough for your average family holiday. Now there is a partial shelf back here, over there, always well. But you might miss a cover here. That is because the cover is up here. Peugeot has decided this is too complicated to put it down there, so let's glue it to the rear window. As you can see, the rear window is right here, and there is some space between the window and the partial shelf, or the cover rather. So obviously you can still see through this little letterbox opening with the rear view mirror. But it's not really sure why Peugeot has done it that way. I don't really think it's an issue to put a small Rollo here or anything, but hey, it is over there, and there is a lot of space in the boot, so, you know, nothing to complain here. And I think in general, here on the front, there is not much to complain. I think this is a good looking car all round, nothing too insane style crazy wise, so I think this is a car a lot of people can agree with. And especially in this black with black and even blacker wheels, I quite like this. This is a good looking vehicle as far as I am concerned. Now, does it drive well? We're going to try that out obviously, and first of all we're going to have a look on the inside, see what it's like in the front, and obviously what it's like in the back as well. And there is a lot of good news, so let's go through things one by one. Here on the left, I'm already happy and glad because these are normal buttons for your power windows and for your mirror controls. So that's an excellent start, no nonsense there. When I look in front of me, the steering wheel is a bit of a mixed bag. I can imagine this is either a love or hate thing for Peugeot buyers. So this is the Peugeot small steering wheel, which in itself is nice. It has the GT badge, it has the nice stitching that we have all throughout the cabin here. So that's cool. It has real buttons, a lot of individual real buttons and switches, so that is excellent as well. Two clusters, we got your volume and your media and your systems on the right, and your cruise control and so on the left. So that's great, works nice, easy to operate, pleasant to hold. It's nice, it's a nice steering wheel that you grab and you feel like, yes, let's go for a drive. So that's good. What's not so good is the piano black on top of the steering wheel. I don't understand. There's no real issues with piano black in this cabin all round. There's a little bit around the steering wheel, but that's stuff you never touch, so that's fine with me. But why on the top of the steering wheel? Why the place where you constantly are touching with your greasy fingers? Baffling. But in itself, it's fine. What is not so fine is the position for me personally. Obviously, your mileage will vary, but Peugeot has the philosophy that you need to look over your steering wheel towards your driver display. Not an issue in itself, you would say. Normally you see through the steering wheel, but here you look over the steering wheel. Fine. But if I sit like this with my foot on the gas pedal or on the brake pedal, the steering wheel, the bottom of the steering wheel is already touching my leg. And that's even before I get any sort of getting in and out of the car problems. So it can't really go any lower than this before it becomes unpractical and uncomfortable. But if I look straight ahead, I'm missing basically the bottom half of my driver's display. So I have to sort of arch my neck to look over. Now, in all fairness, there's not that much information on the bottom, but you know, it's a thing. Like, I can't see half of my display, which is just annoying. And you can maybe move the seat around a little bit, but it's not ideal for me personally, at least, with 1.83 meters. The other thing that is a bit of a mistake all round is the pedals, the flippers behind the steering wheel. Flippers in itself, no issue whatsoever, but if you listen, that is absolutely horrible. That is the worst plastic you can find, which is a baffling decision as well, because that's the part that you touch with your hand. So it looks fine looking from here, looking at the flippers, but as soon as you touch them, it becomes terrible. So that is an all-round mistake. If I had this car, I would probably put some kind of grippy sticker or something on there, because this does not feel nice. Luckily, we do have traditional stalks for your wiper settings and your indicators and your lights, so that is all good. Then, moving to the middle, we have our central infotainment screen with another display underneath where you can configure some tiles for shortcuts. The system itself is fine. It's not the fastest system in the world. There's constant animations through everything. Not really my thing, to be honest. The colors change a little bit depending on your driving mode, but all around it's fine. The screen is clear also during bright sunlight. During night, of course, easy, and it all works fine, but yeah, things like your climate control are in the screen. Navigation is by TomTom, and these animations constantly keep on going. So, you know, it is not the best system in the world, but it works just fine. And I think once you have those tiles configured the way you want, all is well, and it's easy to live with this kind of system. Below the screen, we have a row of buttons for your Klima menu, if for some reason you don't want to have that over here, some air conditioning settings and so on, and a real volume knob. And the most important one is the car button, which brings you directly to your advanced driving assistance systems, your ADAS systems, where you can turn off your lane departure warning and your speed warnings, the ones that I like to turn off. So that's great. You can add a few more if you want to. And that is nice that there's just one button that you always press as you set off, and you can quickly go to those settings. Excellent. So that makes me very happy. Middle tunnel, typical Stellantis, a bit as far as the drive selector and the drive mode goes. So, you know, that is what Stellantis offers. I don't love it. I don't really hate it. It is functional, so nothing going wrong there. We have a middle tunnel with two cup holders that we can also cover, in case you want to do that. So that's nice, then nothing falls in there, no dust and so on, but most of the times you'll have your water bottle here. There is a cubby here for your phone, so that is handy, also with a 12-volt socket and a USB-C for charging. And we have a small cubby over here that doesn't really fit anything apart from your key and your garage clicker. So that is that. And we have an armrest that splits into and is actually quite deep and also houses another USB and a little light. So that's your middle tunnel. In this version we also have a panoramic roof, which is a good option because the outside is all black and the inside is all gray. So that does make it quite dark in here, and it's nice to have that extra bit of light. It also has a manual cover, so we can close it off if it gets too toasty in here. Obviously it's going to get toasty regardless, because the cover only helps so much. With a fixed roof you always have less sun and heat coming in, but it is actually quite nice to have the light option. Then the seats are quite nice. They look good. They have that stitching as well, some kind of Alcantara material, and are all round quite nice seats. But for me, I am just a little bit too broad-shouldered to fit fully comfortable in here. I also have the feeling that I spill over the side of the seat a bit too far with my shoulders. So for like an hour or so it's fine, but anything more it gets slightly uncomfortable for me. They are fully electrically adjustable, so that is good, but for me and my 90-ish kilos, it is just not ideal. But again, your mileage will probably vary. Last but not least, the door pockets have a little bit of carpet under in the bottom, so things don't rattle too much. And obviously we have a nice sound system here from Focal as well. Not too many things you can change in the settings, but overall it is a nice system where you can actually pump up your beats quite nicely while sitting in traffic. So that's good. All around, it's a nice cockpit. The materials are okay. Nothing is really like hard that you touch except for this middle tunnel, but even that has a strip on the side for your leg. So that's all good. And yeah, all around, it's a nice place to be. You really feel inside the car, ready to drive, you know, especially with that small steering wheel, like, yes, let's go. So I think that's what we'll do next. Now, in previous videos, some of you pointed out that most of the driving footage of the reviews was on the highway, which is fair criticism, and of course I listened to your criticism, so we're starting driving in the build-up area around where I live. And this car is perfectly suitable in that context because the suspension is comfortable, the car is easy to place, and this hybrid powertrain is easy to live with. This car comes in several flavors in terms of powertrain, so you can get the full electric version. There is a plug-in hybrid if you want the best of both worlds. And there's the one that we're in, which is the regular hybrid. And I'm always a bit of a fan of the regular hybrid, not per se for my own usage, but I think it is a very nice solution for people that don't want to make the switch to full EV, don't want to mess around with a plug, but still want to buy a sensible car with good fuel economy. And here in the Netherlands, especially with the tax system, it is a bit of a disaster. So it is a nice solution for those people. And it's also a very plug-and-play solution. You don't have to change the way you drive. You don't have to get a charging box at home. You don't really have to change anything about your behavior in and around the car. You can just get in and drive as normal and get the benefits of that hybrid system in terms of fuel saving and ease of drive. So I think it's a great solution as far as that goes. Here in the build-up area, it is not something that is constantly on your mind. And I have to say that after driving this car for about a week now, you sort of forget that the hybrid system is there altogether. You're never going to mess around with the sport mode or the eco mode. I think there's simply not enough power for that to begin with. And maybe only if you go on a very long highway, only cruise control, 100 kilometers an hour driving situation, the eco mode might make sense, but other than that, why would you really? And it's just a pleasant drivetrain to be part of. And here in this area, we're doing 35 now. Obviously, you barely hear the engine, you barely notice the hybrid system at all. Only sort of the first few meters after a traffic light or the last little bit when you're parking in your street. That's where the hybrid system goes into full EV mode. So, you know, no real electric range available just for those little bits. And everywhere else, it gives you that little bit of extra support getting off the line and getting going. So that is nice. And I think it's an all-round, very suitable powertrain for a particular buyer. It's not for everybody, obviously. Personally, if I had to choose, I would probably go for the plug-in hybrid if I want the best of range and economic driving. But in all honesty, I've said it in earlier videos too, I drive about 150 kilometers a week in and around my house, and for that an EV is just fine. And those few times a year that I have to drive further, I can make do with some, you know, albeit slightly annoying, but some charging stops and so on. So for me, the full EV would probably be the better option. And if you land somewhere in the middle, I think the plug-in is also a viable option, but this hybrid is perfectly nice to drive with. Now this car comes with some Peugeot sound enhancement because it's the GT version. That enhancement is on the one hand on the excellent Focal sound system, so if you really want to get your beats bumping while driving, then that is the system for you for sure. But it also gives you a bit of artificial sound when you accelerate hard. That's a bit of a sporting credential that this hybrid doesn't really deserve. It's not a bad sound. It sounds almost genuine, like there's an exhaust back there making proper gurgles, but that's certainly not the case. So I'm not really sure why that is here and why that is necessary, but you know, it is what it is. All around in the city, it is a pleasant car to drive. It is not a small car by any stretch of the imagination, but it doesn't feel sort of overwhelmingly big. So it is easy to place in general. You have a relatively good sense of what the car is doing. And once you're used to the small steering wheel, that is not really an issue either. So as far as that goes, driving in a city and in and around town, no issues whatsoever. Parking is also fine. You got cameras front and back to help you with that. It's fine. You know, it's an easy car to place. It's not something. It's not a small car, right? So you're not going to chuck this into a parking spot without looking. It's not a Nissan Micra. But it is, you know, relatively easy to place because it is, albeit a big car, it's not so overwhelmingly big that it becomes cumbersome. Here in the back of the Peugeot 408, it is a little bit on the dark side because the rear windows are not that high and are quite heavily tinted, and the panoramic roof also ends quite a bit in front of me. So there's not that much light here, not to the point where it gets claustrophobic, but it is something to note if you're planning on transporting children back here a lot. I have a lot of space so that's good. Despite the sloping roofline, I fit here with 1.83 m, albeit barely. I am touching the roof with my hair, so anybody taller than this is gonna hit the roof. Sitting behind myself is no issue. I have about this much space left with my knees, so that is good. It's also necessary because the back of the seat is hard. It's always an interesting and slightly confusing decision to me of car makers to make this hard. I understand it's cheaper to make maybe, or easier to make, but it's never a good solution, because if you have a slightly taller driver, or if I'm slightly taller or my legs are taller or whatever, I'm always hitting the hard back of the seat, which is never comfortable. So I don't understand why this is done this way. I do have a storage net in the seat back though. I have some USB charging, some airflow management, but not temperature. So as far as that goes, a few creature comforts. I have an armrest back here with cup holders that are permanently open, so always you have your wrist in the hole or touching whatever you have in here. And there's also a slot for your phone if you want to watch something. Not the most elegant solution, but I suppose it works. And we have a ski hatch here as well. So that's good. I have basically the same materials as in the front, so that is good, albeit slightly less upmarket. So for example, the top of the door, where it is soft in the front, it's hard here in the back. Other than that, I'm actually pretty comfortable. I have decent space for my feet. There's barely any transmission tunnel, so I can also move around quite easily. And all round, it is an okay place to be. Partly also due to the fact that the seats are not too big. Of the driver and the passenger, which is probably why I don't fit in them that comfortably. But it makes the connection to the front easy to make, and it's easy to watch what is going on and go around the seats. So that is good. And all round, it is an okay place to be here as long as you're not any taller than me. Now, obviously, we got to do a little bit of highway driving, because in the end, this is a place where you spend a lot of time, especially compared to the time you spend driving in and around town. And a highway journey is always, for me as a car tester, a good opportunity to feel the car a bit more when it's all settled down and relaxed, especially with the smooth tarmac we have here in the Netherlands. It's nice to feel what's going on with the car, listen to the sounds the car makes, and overall get a good impression of how it is to travel with a vehicle. So currently we're doing 114 with a little bit of traffic, and it is a perfectly fine cruiser. The powertrain is not the most powerful thing in the world, and I also have to say that the response time is slightly on the sluggish side. So I'll slow down a little bit to create a little bit of space. We're doing 98 now. If I floor it, there we go, 102, 6, 10, 20, 30, 40. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the power delivery. It takes like a physical count to 2 before the engine gets going and all the systems have been kicked down and so on. So it's not the most knife-edge sharp powertrain in the world, but I don't think it has to be. Obviously it has a modest amount of power, and this is also not a race car per se, even though it is called a GT. So if you put that in the context of the Netherlands where I live, where we can only do 100 on the highway, and most of the time it's so busy that you're stuck in traffic anyway, it is perfectly reasonable to work with this powertrain. And in the end, you want to be economical and you still want to be able to drive pleasantly and easily, and I think this powertrain does provide those things. You have a little power meter on the dash here with power when you floor it, eco, which is the middle mode where you want to be in most of the time, and then charge, which charges the battery when you let go of the gas or brake. And most of the time at the speed that we're doing now, just over 100, you're in the bottom half of the eco zone, so that is the most economical way to travel anyway. And then when you do want to go for an overtake or when you want to merge on the highway, it's a powertrain that does deliver enough punch to be able to do that without too much consideration. Now obviously you're not going to be able to overtake 3 trucks and 5 other cars just before taking the exit. There's not enough power available for that in general, but it's easy to go with the traffic and drive pleasantly without having to plan ahead too far. So as we head into a little bit of traffic jam here, a point proven from earlier, it is pretty much always traffic jams here in the Netherlands regardless of the time of day. But taking the whole driving experience into consideration, I mentioned the seats before. I don't really fit in them comfortable enough, so I'll keep those out of the equation. It's quite a nice place to be, and that whole Peugeot small steering wheel philosophy might not be my personal preference, but sitting here, I can see how it works. Like it's nice to grab onto the steering wheel, have that nice overview of your cockpit and your navigation, your display over the steering wheel, and that nice look over the bonnet. I think it works as a whole, as a package. It is thought through, and that also, you know, then things like the layout of the cabin and the way you interact and reach the touch points, it starts to make sense that way. So that's nice, and it's good to see that those things are considered and all work as intended. Obviously, this has to be your thing, just like the styling on the outside. The styling here on the inside is, I would say, particular. You really have something to choose. For example, when you compare it to Volkswagen's lineup, or maybe even from within the Stellantis group. If you look at Opel, for example, it's very different, and it's a very typical Peugeot, modern Peugeot layout here in terms of the hardware, the steering wheel, the things you touch. So it's really a choice to make, and actually I think that's quite nice. Where cars, you know, tend to be, especially EVs these days, you know, they all get put through the wind tunnel and they all end up with a generic shape because that's the most aerodynamically efficient. Sure, and then, you know, let's keep all the buttons away and put a tablet in the middle and let's call it a day. You know, it's more characterful here in this Peugeot, that you really have something to choose that is not generic. It is, you know, similar throughout the Peugeot lineup, but it's different from other brands, and I think that is actually quite nice and to be applauded, that it's really something to choose. After living with this Peugeot 408 for a week, is this the car to get? Well, I think there is a lot to like here. First of all, the design is quite good. I think if you like the Peugeot design of today, then this is certainly up your alley. And I think especially in this triple black version with everything black on the outside, this is a good looking car. I think Peugeot makes a compelling package here with a stylish outside, a big nice cruiser, good engine choices, lots of space in the boot, not too much space in the rear if you have tall kids, but you know, that's also not everybody. And I think overall this is a car with many faces and many ways to deploy. Obviously it is not as practical as a full state version, and it's maybe a little bit bigger than your average hatchback, but if you're in the market for this kind of size, certainly something worth considering. It's not all perfect. There are certain quirks on the inside and outside that are typical Peugeot, like the small steering wheel, for example. The design in general, I can really imagine that those kind of things are very good for some people and not so much for other people. So, you know, it's not for everybody, but I think there is a lot to like. That's all I got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and sub to the channel is always appreciated, of course. And check out our Patreon page if you want to see some exclusive and behind the scenes, and if you want to support the channel. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.